He was once the great general who conquered the 9 immortal realms. Yet he disguised himself as a profligate son of nobility. Every day, it was either challenging others to duels, or muttering in a corner. Even the princess seemed more prudish than a maiden. He made the king put a bounty on my head to bring me home. The very king. Little did they know, I did it all. Only because I command 800,000 gold taels. Not only do I have the fame to destroy the imperial capital with ease, I am fit to be king. Even the noble house of Lu holds no kinship with me. But today, I shall drop the act. Apologies, I intend to become the Empress Dowager, the demon sovereign. In the imperial city on Qingming, did you go mad today? Duke Feng Xiaowan frowned slightly. Feeling vexed seeing Xiu, I'd gladly punch him. When we reach the court soon. Don't speak or look around carelessly. I blinked my eyes. Duke Feng has 5 sons. And 15 grandsons. Either they died in battle or were executed by the Empress. I alone remain. So Duke Feng resents that I haven't achieved anything. Yet he cannot lay a hand on me. Who do I see behind Duke Feng? This young master is going to court? What madness has he taken today? Everyone, don't let your grandsons go. Or the cabbage might get destroyed. Haha, old man. Your granddaughter fancies that man, no? Go to hell. This brat seduced my granddaughter's heart. With just a couple of lines of poetry. Claiming it was for artistic expression. Making my granddaughter dress so revealingly. The ministers murmured in discussion. Xiu mingles with the nobles by writing love poems. Almost every noble maiden in the capital has held his hand and seen his writings. That's why people resent him so. The current regime took power. I cannot remain hidden like a raindrop any longer. I must make a shocking first move. I need an official position first. Good thing I've had Lu Fengxian and my demonic army return. On the other side, at the Zhou Palace, Leng Wuyan wore a robe of red and black, embroidered with a black dragon. Seated regally on the throne, his face was elegant, his jade legs slender. When can my fathers wish to conquer the 6 nations and unite the realm be realized? This cassia cake is not bad. Leng Wuyan's ministers had yet to arrive. He took a cassia cake from the tray of his palace maid and put it in his mouth. The fragrance of cassia flowers wafted. He stretched lazily, his jade feet and voluptuous figure on display. Being emperor is so tiring. Last night I reviewed memorials until 2:30 a.m. The emperor thought to himself. The ministers would soon arrive at the Zhou Palace. The palace maid reminded him. He hastily threw the unfinished cassia cake aside. In the next moment, he instantly shed his relaxed, indolent demeanor. He ascended the dragon throne, majestically enthroned. The dragon's might manifested. He transformed once more into that imperious sovereign. Your Imperial Majesty. Civil and military officials kneeled and bowed their heads. Leng Wuyan's cold, smoky voice echoed through the land. Yet the next moment, a startling event unfolded. He glimpsed a luminous vial, displaying the faded attributes of each official. His gaze fell upon the Duke of Fengguo, Su Yuan. The Duke's lineage is impeccable. Yet he dotes excessively upon his grandson. Leng Wuyan nodded slightly. Continuing to survey the other officials, the Chancellor Yu is of renowned pedigree, yet addicted to wine. But when he saw Zhou Zun's attributes, he was enraged. You, Zhou Shi, your ambition knows no bounds. A treacherous minister in the making. A traitorous scoundrel through and through. Leng Wuyan scrutinized each familiar official. Who is disloyal? Who is the traitor? Leng Wuyan's gaze was piercing. Then he spoke calmly. If there are matters, speak. If not, court is dismissed. Your Majesty. An old man stepped forward. His name was Zhu Yin, a bit greedy, but no grave crimes. Your Majesty, the three great martial clans of Da Zhou, the Yuhuagong, Ryu Shengjiu in the Imperial city wish to emulate you, holding a grand Zhengzi ceremony. There are signs they may encroach on the borders of our kingdom. We cannot let them usurp the royal clan. How can we maintain face? Zhou Yin sobbed uncontrollably as he spoke. When our founding ancestor established Da Zhou, no one dared defy the imperial authority. Yet now, we face insults from wandering pugilists. Seeing this, Leng Wuyan's lip twitched slightly. I had instructed you to raise this matter in court today. There was no need for such theatrics. Else one might mistake you for a loyal subject, devoted wholeheartedly to Da Zhou. Yet the next moment, Zhou Zan objected. Your Majesty, I advise against taking action against the martial clans. Our priority now is the northern frontier troops. The tribes under Da Yuan have formed a new kingdom in the north, plundering our border towns and cities. We must focus our forces on destroying this northern kingdom. After he finished, several other officials voiced agreement, praising Zhou Zan's words. Leng Wuyan remained expressionless. Yet inside he was seething with rage. He had seen Zhou Zan's character, a treacherous minister, with ambitions of usurping the throne. No wonder he aided the northern tribes against the borders. It was not the first or second time he did so. Da Zhou has been unable to eliminate these pests. Powerless against their hit-and-run tactics, they plunder and flee. Concentrating forces against the northern kingdom is mere drivel. Zhou Zan's animosity is far-reaching. The officials led by the governor were nitpicking, but fell behind. No trace of smoke in her charming eyes. Just as she was about to speak, I interrupted her words. Gentlemen, let us not quarrel anymore, I said with a smile. Your Majesty, may I offer my perspective? Cold Wuyan raised an eyebrow slightly. If I'm not mistaken, you must be the sole heir of the Su family. Always spending money courting ladies, flirting and muttering. It seems the princess's maid has just fallen for you. Now let me see your life story. I hesitated for a moment, and my life story appeared before my eyes. But in the next moment, the sky was filled with golden light. The screen was filled with golden attributes. Skilled in both literary and martial arts. Now he is a master of both civil and military talents. Poetry, songs, dances, and cultivation he excels in all. An unparalleled scholar and officer. Now he is compassionate, possessing an evenness of great righteousness. A martial arts immortal in the world. Now his martial prowess is divine, truly a reincarnation of the military strategist Zhang Zia. His household is full of loyalty and integrity. Generations of the Su family have died valiantly on the battlefield, wandering freely among the flowers. A dashing, romantic vagabond. All the noble ladies would swoon over him. Leng Wuyan blinked her eyes, reassuring herself that she was no mere wildflower. To think there actually existed such an extraordinary genius, the greatest literary and martial talent in the entire court. All others only had purple fates, while Siyu had a whole cluster of azure fates. Leng Wuyan's fantasies. Suyu's eye suddenly took on a look of yearning. It seems people only know of Suyu's licentious reputation, unaware that the licentiousness is real, but the dissipation is false. At this moment, the atmosphere in court was ominous. Yet Leng Wuyan had just been watching a play on life, and did not speak, while the other officials all fell into a trance. They knew that this Suyu would definitely stir up trouble when he appeared. Now it's happened. Suyu has purposely offended both factions here. It's most likely Leng Wuyan will expose him. He stepped forward, and even claimed to have my legacy. You little brat, you've really disappointed your grandpa badly. Other than flirting with girls, what capability does he have? Grandpa, I've really kicked an iron plate this time. You. Duke Feng's robe fluttered in the wind. He glanced at Leng Wuyan. Your Majesty is not like those little girls he usually chats with. Alas, the entire Su household may be exterminated this time. under the divine gaze of the Empress. Even for the sake of the Su family's generations of loyal integrity, she would not let Su off easily. The officials held their breath, quietly awaiting Leng Wuyan's anger. Duke Feng, Su Yuan inconspicuously tugged at Suyu's robe, signaling for Suyu to quickly retreat. As the last of the Su bloodline, he was half their flesh and blood. Suyu could not be harmed. Once the Empress ascends the throne, she will be truly unrestrained. She could execute Duke Feng and exterminate 10 lines of his descendants. No wonder Duke Feng feared that Suyu would blurt out some nonsense about romantic dalliances, causing Leng Wuyan to execute him. The entire court was deathly silent. All the officials looked at the noble and aloof Leng Wuyan. The atmosphere was as stifling as before a violent storm. But in the next moment, Leng Wuyan revealed an exquisite smile. "What strategy do you have? Speak, and let us hear it." That smile was so bewitching and alluring. It seemed as if everything in the world was dimmed by this radiant smile. Upon hearing this, all the civil and martial officials were stunned. The old woman of Lingshan Mountain had actually smiled for the first time in 18 years. What was going on? Whether in the court or in private, they had never seen Leng Wuyan reveal a smile before. What had happened today? It's an old saying, you see, that we are equally stunned. Notification sounds kept ringing in my ears. You have astonished her. Leng Wuyan's prestige value increased by 1. You have astonished her. Feng Guogong's prestige value increased by 5. I must say, this Empress does not follow the rules. Shouldn't she first scold me, then order me to leave? I should be shouting desperately, pleading for forgiveness, before gaining any prestige. Haha, but no matter, this does not affect my ability to single-handedly woo a lady. It's a piece of cake. Just gain enough prestige. I paused for a moment, slowing my tone. Your Majesty, in this world, there must be a sovereign over all matters. Pacify the external to govern the internal. Leng Wuyan's eyes lit up slightly. She couldn't help but praise. Well said. Pacify the external to govern the internal. The officials were all astonished. These words seemed to make sense. How could such words come from the mouth of this prodigal son? Could it be that he uses such words to woo ladies and astonish the officials, as well as Leng Wuyan? My martial arts mastery increased by 500. The Great Zhou dynasty owes its might to 6 previous reigns. Only thus did we gain our present foundation. Your Majesty should first conquer the Zhongnu, then pacify them. Attack the nearby, engage the distant, sweep across the 6 nations. Although I'm not too familiar with her, I know that as a reigning empress, Leng Wuyan's ambitions must be grand. I don't believe she wouldn't want to sweep the 6 nations and unite all under heaven. So don't talk nonsense. Come back to your senses. Quickly, quickly. The officials were all stunned, gasping in astonishment at my words, that I had spoken of sweeping the 6 nations. The other 6 nations would surely be wary, defending against any potential aggression. Today, I may have just lost my head. Lord Feng quickly tried to make excuses for me. How dare you speak so recklessly? The officials fell silent again. Lord Feng was about to apologize on my behalf. But before he could act, Leng Wuyan stood up abruptly. She praised me without reservation. Well said, your words have expressed our desire of the Great Zhou dynasty, inherited from past reigns. Who would not wish to unite all under heaven? The ministers were dumbfounded. Lord Feng too was dumbstruck, quickly withdrawing the motion he was about to make. He stepped back hastily, mumbling, Your Majesty, you do not follow the rules. Leng Wuyan's eyes were filled with radiance. He stared intently, as if he longed to swallow me whole. He had an aura like a towering mountain and flowing river. I suppressed the sense of anticipation within me, combined with Suyu's dazzling golden radiance. I am the peerless, loyal and formidable Master Wuxuan. Leng Wuyan could hardly wait to devour Suyu. Leng Wuyan leaned forward slightly, his chilling voice resonating in every minister's heart. Since you, Su Iking, have a brilliant strategy, I shall appoint you as the heaven-commanding supervisor, leading an army of 300,000 men, with the top-tier power of the 3 martial arts schools. You should know, they all possess masters of celestial immortal realm strength. Leng Wuyan's words left all the ministers in awe. Your Majesty, please withdraw from the city, they implored the emperor. Suyu is merely a scholar, with no martial prowess. This is sending him to his death. The provincial governor hurriedly said, Your Majesty, to have a mere scholar lead troops would only squander the life of the Great Zhou's second son. The other ministers hastened to voice their agreement, yet Leng Wuyan simply ignored them, her lips curling ever so slightly. What does the beloved consort think? The literary ministers were dumbfounded. Why did Leng Wuyan favor the master so? Leng Wuyan held only court politics in her grip. The emperor enjoyed playing favorites. He had never dotted on any particular male minister before. What was this? Could it be because this empress had been single for many years, her hunger insatiable, or did Suyu possess some extraordinary quality? Leng Wuyan gazed intently at Suyu. This great calamity. Yet I am but a humble minister, hidden in the Phoenix Palace. My heart raced. The Su family will be extinguished. The other ministers sighed deeply. If Suyu could subdue the 3 celestial sects. With a wave of Leng Wuyan's hand, Lord Qifu and High Minister Ying were immediately summoned. They could muster 300,000 troops. I calculated my ability to imbue soldiers with shadowy attributes, and my current prestige. At most, I could enchant 3,000 soldiers. Then I could draw another character. Calmly, I said, Your Majesty needs but 3,000 elite troops. That will suffice, I assure you, I guarantee it, I stated firmly. Su shall establish military order and annihilate the 3 sects first. At the Forbidden Summit. Not bad, you're indeed a talent I have favored. Bright Moon, go select 3,000 men for him to lead. Leng Wuyan gazed at Suyu. A look of delight. This was just her style. Favoring the talented and arrogant. This scene seemed right out of the heroic tales her uncle often spoke of. The ministers were dumbstruck. Many wanted to caution the empress. Your Majesty, reconsider. But thinking again, none had the courage. They feared Leng Wuyan's wrath. Dismissed, she waved. Leng Wuyan had anticipated the ministers' scorn for Suyu. The ministers withdrew one by one. Earl Feng glared, grabbing my wrist, about to drag me home for a beating. But Leng Wuyan suddenly spoke up. Suyu, beloved consort, stay a moment. Join me in the Jade Chamber. At her words, Earl Feng reluctantly let go. I basked in the prestige I had gained. I followed behind Leng Wuyan. Along the way, palace maids and eunuchs wondered what trouble the young Master Su had caused. To be summoned for beheading. She didn't know, yet was taken away to be beheaded. Perhaps by the eunuchs. The palace maids were whispering amongst themselves, only hearing the outside rumors. Leng Wuyan and Suyu had very different images in their hearts. Shh, don't speak, or the profligate Suyu will discover you, and you'll be taken away to wed him. Is he that terrifying? Yes. I've heard this capital city's great young master has over 700 concubines, and can last 2.5 hours in one night. Wah, I don't want that. I can't handle that prowess. You frightened the little palace maids and eunuchs to tears. Gained reputation value. Upon hearing this, my mind was full of question marks. What did I do? Just by walking, how did I frighten the palace maids and eunuchs? Haha. Seems I played the role of Wan Kai quite vividly. Soon, I arrived at the bathhouse with Leng Wuyan. The withering cold wind. Exquisite murals covered the palace halls. Precious bath decorations. Su Iking and Leng Wuyan sat down. The jailer's figure flickered. Smiling, he asked the Great Zhou, In the north lies the Wangi Valley Pass. The 6 eastern nations guard fiercely, leaving Great Zhou no path. How can we break through? I frowned slightly, knowing Leng Wuyan called me over to ask about strategies to conquer the 6 nations. This martial affair, though the suffering of war is no trifling matter, the imperial ruler has great poise, combined with military might. Dynastic conquest has become the mainstream. Allow me to explain in detail, Your Majesty. I pondered for a moment, then Leng Wuyan began her analysis. In fact, the current Great Zhou is quite similar to the Qin state of my previous world. Some similarities: the northern Zhongnu, and the 6 nations guarding now, preventing Qin from venturing out, just like Zhou. But from another perspective, the 6 nations cannot invade either. They cannot actively attack Qin. In other words, only Qin can attack others, while others cannot attack Qin. Qin could even rest and recuperate, playing the strategy of horizontal and vertical alliances outside, watching the 6 nations fight each other, reaping the benefits of a fisherman watching the strife. Great Zhou is in the same situation. I said confidently, Your Majesty has great foresight. The 6 nations surrounding Great Zhou shows they fear Zhou's eastward expansion, sweeping across the continent. This is the might of Great Zhou. Leng Wuyan nodded slightly. Her eyes sparkled like precious gems. You say Zhou cannot go out, but the 6 nations cannot come in either. Zhou grasps the initiative. To attack or to defend, the choice is ours. As she spoke, Leng Wuyan's eyes grew brighter. I felt my mind suddenly clear. Having overcome the long-standing troubles, now the Great Zhou dynasty only needs to pacify the remnants in the far north, build amicable relations with the imperial court, and the vast lands of the Qin dynasty, abundant in horses, will be ours to claim. I let out a confident smile. Leng Wuyan excitedly nodded in agreement. Your Majesty, I can assure you, said Suiking, give me but a day, and the glory of the Fengguo clan shall never wane. My purge will be as flawless as a jade pillar. This is the moment to secure the nation. After listening to Su Yu's strategy, Leng Wuyan realized that the Great Zhou occupied such an advantageous geographic position. No wonder it harbored so many talents of the highest caliber. Leng Wuyan had already made up his mind. Once Su Yu inherited the position of Fengguo Gong, he would ensure the Fengguo mansion's legacy endured, never to be broken. Your Majesty is too kind. I nodded with a smile. But conquering rebels is never enough. I care not for such treasures. I glanced at the female prisoner in white stockings. Conquering the aloof Ice Queen, the Empress herself, is not sweeter than being the Emperor. Why inherit the title of Fengguo Gong? Enough, Suiking. This is the Great Zhou court. If there is any matter, you may directly seek an audience with me at the palace. This is your privilege. Go now, conquer the 3 gates. I shall await your triumphant return. At that time, I shall grant you any request without conditions. Any request at all shall be fulfilled. I reached out and cupped your chin, pushing you into the corner. With an unforgiving expression, Leng Wuyan's face flushed red. Her body felt like it was struck by lightning, burning hot. You scoundrel, you are the Emperor. What do you think you're doing? But in the next moment, I snatched away Leng Wuyan's demonic sword token. What were you thinking? Our Majesty's hands touched, and Leng Wuyan felt a surge of warmth, as if struck by lightning, quickly withdrawing her hand. Her face flushed red. 2.5 hours later, the Empress staggered out of the Phoenix Palace, leaning against the wall for support. Next time, Su Yu, I shall execute you for your 18 centimeters. Leng Wuyan felt shy from experiencing your prowess. You gain 1,000 prestige. Leng Wuyan's affection for you increases by 1,000. You have gained 1,100 prestige in total. A series of notification sounds rang out, making my head spin. Shy. Ridiculous. For the strongest player in the realm, the peerless Leng Wuyan, to be shy is simply absurd. You must know, back when the old Wuyan was a captain, she sacrificed all her brothers and sisters without hesitation. This ice-cold beauty who treated life like grass would actually feel shy. 2.5 hours later, Feng Wuogong's steward sat in the main hall, silently watching Siyu. By his side was another elderly steward. The current Prime Minister Yu Qian stood before me. I looked at him dumbfounded, standing before two extremely powerful old men. My expression was awkward. Little Yu, you're not so little anymore. Lord Feng coughed, covering his mouth. It's time to clarify. Old master, I almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. What nonsense needs clarifying? I looked at Prime Minister Yu Qian in confusion, making sure they weren't joking with me. My little daughter Yu Zuanji is 16 years old. The perfect age for marriage. Our two families are well matched, so it was settled. Lord Feng didn't give Ziyu a chance to refuse. Let's have the wedding tomorrow. Prime Minister Yu Qian clasped his hands and smiled. Congratulations, young man. Yu Qian and Lord Feng had been old friends for many years. Seeing that Siyu was about to lead 3,000 elite soldiers to suppress the Shanwu sect of celestial immortals, Lord Feng panicked. This was clearly a suicide mission. The Su family couldn't be left without an heir, so after the summer, he immediately contacted his old friend to hastily arrange a marriage, preventing Siyu from being left alone, leaving the old Su family without an heir. This was how the current scene came to be. I flatly refused, without any hesitation. Although I've been chasing skirts for many years, that doesn't mean I'm willing to marry a girl I've never met. You brat. How many people wish to meet the talented Yu Zuanji but can't even get a glimpse of her? And you're refusing? Lord Feng's beard bristled as he glared angrily, almost fainting from rage. Absolutely not. You must listen to your grandfather. No means no, get lost. Where's my cane? I'll beat you to death. Suyu was almost choked with anger. Yu Qian took a deep breath and advised, well, if the boy doesn't want to, then forget it. Here's what we'll do, little Yu. You to get to know each other first. And if it works out, then discuss marriage. Human nature is ultimately selfish. No one is different. If we'd said to get to know each other first, I definitely wouldn't have agreed. But since we said to clarify things, then get to know each other, I find that more acceptable. Plus, I'm in a hurry to experiment with my newfound power. I don't have time to dally with two old men. Very well, let me pack my things first. Then go to the Iron Escort camp to muster the troops. I turned and entered my room, eager to experiment with my godly power. Yu Qian and Suyu, the two old foxes, exchanged a glance, each seeing the slyness in the other's eyes. Suyu leaned over, whispering, prepare more medicine. Hopefully it will work its magic on the first try. An old friend won't let your family line die out. Thank you, my friend. In the other room, I gazed at the attribute panel, lost in thought. My current prestige value was just enough to enchant 3,000 people and summon either a general or a civil officer. In the next moment, the roulette spun wildly. My heart cried out, and the roulette obediently stopped spinning. The pointer slowly froze on a figure clad in a parrot black dragon armor, riding a crimson steed, wielding the Fang Tian Hua Chang halberd. Congratulations, you have summoned the Golden General El Bu, a celestial being from the terrestrial realm. You will automatically gain the power of the summoned general, which can be stacked. The summoned general will follow your commands. The light screen in front of me vanished. I instantly felt a surge of power, an endless flow of energy coursing through my body. My realm ascended level by level, reaching the celestial being from the terrestrial realm. Knowledge of supreme martial arts, archery, and horsemanship was imprinted into my mind. A terrifying aura of violence emanated from my eyes. It seemed that when I moved my hands now, I would be like a seasoned general who had fought countless battles, emerging from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. My mere presence could frighten ordinary people to death. And I now possessed the power of a celestial being from the terrestrial realm. No, I must go see my son, Fengxian. Haha, my ignorant and beloved son, Fengxian. I wiped my mouth and spat twice, then strode out of the door, heading towards the Iron Eagle Guard's camp. Although Elbu had been modified by the system to be completely loyal to me, and no longer had the father-in-law attribute, I still felt that father-in-law was somewhat ominous. A few minutes later, I arrived at the deserted church, planning to summon Elbu first, before going to the Iron Eagle Guard's camp. Come out, Calvarex. No, not Calvarex. Crimson light particles coalesced in front of me, gradually forming a solid human shape. Clad in a black dragon armor, wielding the Fang Tian Hua Chang halberd, leading a 3-meter-tall crimson dragon horse, Elbu appeared before me. Greetings, my lord. Elbu knelt on one knee, hands clasped in salute, his eyes brimming with loyalty. I quickly helped Elbu up, laughing, "You peasant, you knave. Ha, ignorant fool. You finally arrived. Please, rise." Seeing me personally helping him up, Elbu immediately stood at attention. Tears welled up in his eyes. His voice choked with emotion. "My lord, to see you today. I am deeply honored." I quickly stopped him, slightly afraid. As Elbu spoke, he suddenly gained a son. I was only 1.8 meters tall, while Elbu towered at 2.3 meters. His Fang Tian Hua Chang halberd was even taller than me. Yet at this moment, the Fang Tian Hua Chang halberd towered even higher than me. Yet at this moment, Elbu was leading the dragon horse, following quietly behind me. His fierce, piercing gaze swept the surroundings like a vigilant bodyguard. Soon, I brought Elbu to the Iron Eagle Guard's camp. Who goes there? This is a military camp. No trespassing. The Iron Eagle Guard commander on duty noticed me, then eyed Elbu behind me and the Crimson Dragon horse. He couldn't help but gasp in astonishment. Which military unit does this formidable general belong to? So intimidating, and the continent still has such fine horses. Commander, your mighty General Elbu has left me in awe. When you gain prestige, my eyes lit up. The deeds of my subordinates have contributed to my own prestige value. Not bad, not bad. I, Suyu, am here under His Majesty's orders to command 3,000 troops. I am an imperial official of the Great State. I presented the jade token bestowed by Leng Wuyan, and as we share the same purpose. He paused briefly, staring in disbelief at the jade token I held. He then hurriedly knelt in salute. An edict from the Great State, as revered as the Son of Heaven himself. Ever since Leng Wuyan ascended the throne, there has been no sight of an imperial edict for over a decade. This is because Leng Wuyan is so iron-willed that he never overly favors any official. The Iron Eagle Guard commander, Qin Yang, quickly stepped aside, inviting me and Elbu into the Iron Eagle Guard's camp. 2.5 minutes later, Qin Yang spoke in a solemn voice, "The Iron Eagle Guard awaits your orders. Governor Su, under the Emperor's edict, you are to subjugate the 3 martial sects. Those willing to follow, step forward." For synchronized steps rang out in perfect unison. Incredibly, the entire Iron Eagle Guard advanced for steps together. I then cupped my hands in salute and glanced at Elbu, signaling him to lead the troops to follow me. Elbu immediately understood, leading the Crimson Dragon horse to the front of the Iron Eagle Guard. The entire army, heed my command, follow me to the military camp. The sound of marching was coarse and carried a hint of arrogance. On the black dragon armor, faint traces of blood glowed under the sun's glare. It was terrifying. Combined with Elbu's imposing aura, the 3,000 Iron Eagle Guards, though unascended, felt their hearts tremble. What a formidable general, an unmatched warrior. The 3,000 Iron Eagles, instantly losing any trace of defiance, obediently followed Elbu towards the camp. The 3,000 Iron Eagle Guards, known for their exceptional mobility and formidable combat prowess, if imbued with the shadow attribute. A smile crept across my lips. An enchanted army. I mused silently. In the next moment, boundless shadows emerged from the heavens and earth. Countless black specks of light descended upon the upright Iron Eagle Guards. Their auras transformed abruptly. Love you, slowly dissipated from their bodies. The Iron Eagle emblems on their shoulders gradually turned jet black as well. 3 nights later, the 3,000 elite soldiers were renewed. All of them mastered the power of shadows. With a mere thought, they could merge into the shadows. Not only could they shadow walk as specters, but they could even control shadow clones and more. The Iron Eagles on their shoulders also fused with shadows. A 3,000-strong shadow army, instantly ascending to Grandmaster level. How do you evaluate this force, Commander Key? I asked with great enthusiasm. Truly formidable, like the might of 5 ferocious wolves. You are an immortal sage, my lord. A look of awe flashed across Commander Key's eyes. He had witnessed my capabilities. Out of thin air, an ordinary iron army had been transformed into an elite unit with mystical shadow powers. Elbu's loyalty deepened further. His eyes shone with fanatical reverence when he looked at me. With such a force, we could conquer the 3 martial sects. Do you have the confidence to join me in subduing the 3 martial sects? My voice rang out loud and clear. The 3,000 Shadow Iron Eagle Guards remained silent. In unison, they raised their right hands, gripping the long blades tightly. The Iron Eagles on their shoulders spread their wings. 3,000 soldiers moved in perfect synchronization. The air was thick with a solemn, bloodthirsty aura. The entire army, at the ready. Tomorrow we march out, he said. Let me familiarize myself with your capabilities. Do not leave the camp without my orders. He gave a few words of caution, then left the training grounds with Elbu. I still need to go home for a courtship meeting, to meet that so-called Yuzuanji, the fabled great lady of talent. On the other side, Zhongguo Wushu. As soon as I entered, Duchess Fengguo pulled me to the main hall. There sat a young lady, graceful and elegant. Her skin white as snow. She was seated across from me. Just sitting there. One could sense the gentle air of a noble lady, and the unique scent of ink and drizzle that only a talented scholar possesses. Ah, this must be Zuanji. Today I shall take Zuanji out to get acquainted and familiar with our relationship. We'll have dinner together when we return tonight. Duchess Fengguo introduced with a smile. I raised an eyebrow and grunted. The girl is quite beautiful. And gentle too. But alas, she fancies literati arts. I'm not too fond of that moldy bookish smell. As I examined Yuzuanji, she too examined me in return. She knew, barring any surprises, the man before her would become her husband. He seemed handsome and dashing, with a somewhat roguish air. Just a bit too carefree, perhaps, and she had heard some vulgar rumors about him. That he would casually recite poetry like, laughing heartily under the open sky, I stride forth, or perhaps, modestly I subdue the 5 sacred peaks. For a true gallant, licentiousness is no crime. It was acceptable. Moreover, he seemed skilled in both arts, not at all the image of a debauched idler. This was he, the one she would spend her life with. A strange light flickered in Yuzuanji's eyes. In this era of Great Zhou, children of noble families had no freedom to choose their spouses, enjoying the glory and wealth of their clans. They must accept arranged marriages for the clan's interests. From a very young age, Yuzuanji had heard of Suyu's poetry. Zhao's riders with falcon bows, glazed with frost and snow. She had long been an ardent fan and admirer of his poetry. A fangirl, so to speak, so with a favorable first impression, Yuzuwanji accepted Tsuyu as her destined husband. Fair enough. I sighed inwardly. I had planned to buy a fine steed this afternoon, but it seemed I had no choice now. Accompanying a woman around the capital. Listening to music, no doubt. I must take Zhuangji and make the most of this festival day. Do you understand? Duchess Fengguo asked sternly. Go now. Don't return until evening. I nodded with a wry smile, and quickly left with Zhuangji. Although the bone sealing technique. A bag of powder appeared in his hands. Old friend, I hope your drug powder is potent enough. Preferably resulting in twins or triplets. Watching the silhouettes of Tsuyu and Yuzuwanji, these two youths, his heart was a mixture of emotions. Grandson, don't blame your old grandpa. I cannot extend the Su family lineage. Suyun will soon go to a celestial martial sect to die. He must leave behind an heir before he goes. Phew, finally out. I grabbed Yuzuwanji and walked outside the Fengguo mansion, feeling much relieved. Young Master Zuanzi, it hurts a bit. Yuzuwanzi lowered her head, shyly pointing at her arm. She was currently being held by Tsuyu. I quickly let go of my grip. On her fair, tender arm was a red mark, unmistakably. Sorry, I didn't notice. Why didn't you say so earlier? I circulated my inner force, channeling the true ki into Yuzuwanji's wrist area. With a gentle stroke, the red mark vanished without a trace. Thank you, young master, Zuanji said softly. Her eyes filled with wonder. She only felt a warmth, and the mark disappeared. This is an immortal skill. It seems her husband is not the prodigal son, as rumored. Yuzuanzi never believed Tsuyu was a prodigal, for she could clearly sense the lofty ambition in his poems and verses. One capable of such works could hardly be a prodigal, could he? I glanced into the distance, at Yuzuanji who had slipped out, and said, well, Miss Zuanzi, if you find it boring, you can go ahead first, and enjoy the Lantern Festival on your own. Are you trying to get rid of me, husband? Tears glistened in Yuzuanji's eyes. Hearing this, I was dumbfounded. What husband? We're not even engaged yet. How can you call me that? You have gained Yuzuanji's affection. Your prestige has increased. You have gained Yuzuanji's love. Your prestige has increased. Stunned, I cursed inwardly. Woo, if you abandon Zuanzi, Zuanzi would rather die. Tears shimmered in the fairy's eyes. That's not what I meant. Just follow me, all right? I said helplessly. Yuzuanji was indeed very beautiful. Fair skin, pure as rouge, with a unique literary charm. Hee, Yuzuanji lowered her head. Then a glint flashed in her eyes. 2.5 hours later, I took Yuzuanji and strolled around the capital of Great Zhou. Lu Bu concealed his black dragon armor within his flesh and blood. Then he changed into ordinary clothes, following behind Tsuyu and Yuzuanji like a fresh and naive bodyguard. No matter what, Dajo was still a middle-aged man of great bearing. The Lantern Festival in the capital was truly prosperous. Husband, where shall we go to play? Yuzuanji asked curiously, holding to candied fruit skewers. Eating cannot stop your mouth. I sighed inwardly. Then said, let's go to the Linma court. I want to choose a good horse. Hearing this, Yuzuanji was dumbfounded. Going out with a girl to strengthen the relationship. But we end up choosing horses? What kind of emotional intelligence is this? Do we also need to choose armor? and a precious sword and longbow. Yu Zuanji blinked at me. How smart, I'm amused. I did not stint in praising myself. It's best if Yu Zuanji finds it boring and goes home herself. Yu Zuanji's mouth twitched. Well, he couldn't accept it. After all, he had longed for such romantic chivalry in life of battle since childhood. Miss Zuanzi, if you find it boring, you can watch the Lantern Festival here first. We'll meet outside the Fengbo Palace in the evening. I bowed my head inwardly. The little girl defied me. She should know to go home obediently now. But to my surprise, Yu Zuanji's eyes were full of starry delight. Okay, husband. I'll go with you too. Hearing this, I was speechless. 2.5 hours later, I brought Da Zhou and smoothly arrived at the Linma court. Da Zhou was no ordinary horse or tiger. In this vast imperial horse court, there were only more than 10,000 ordinary horses. Top-notch horses like the Sheik or Longma could not be found at all. No wonder Da Zhou was helpless against the northern nomadic kingdom. I understood now. The northern nomadic kingdom was born on the grasslands, with tens of thousands of fine horses. Da Zhou's few horses would absolutely be trampled by them. Your Highness, the quality of these horses is a bit too poor. Elbu couldn't help but frown as he spoke. I nodded slightly. No matter, after pacifying the 3 passes, we'll solve the horse issue then. Feng Shan, what do you think of that horse? Elbu followed Suyu's gaze. He saw a huge, pure black horse. As expected of your Highness, with one glance, you spotted the best among these horses. Elbu praised me. Yu Zuanji stood by the side, looking a bit scared. She curiously listened to Suyu and Elbu's conversation, realizing horses were such precious things. Yu Zuanji, who had never left home, seemed to glimpse a different world. That black horse looks really ferocious, your Highness. The official overseeing the horse court hurried over. This horse is named Wu Jui. He has thrown 7 or 8 people this month. Even the prefecture governor-general of the sacred realm could not subdue this Wu Jui horse. Your Highness, please consider. Why don't you change to a different horse? After all, he is just a minor official. No matter, this black stallion will do. It looks quite majestic. I smiled faintly. I was wondering whether I could infuse the elements between heaven and earth into the horse. If the divine eagles of the Iron Escort Agency can be infused with darkness, then horses should also be able to be enveloped. The black stallion is a rare superior breed. After infusing it with the wind element, it will surely become faster. Perhaps it could even rival Elbu's famed red-haired horse. I am a celestial immortal of the land. Subduing a horse would be child's play. I took a step forward, preparing to subdue it. But at that moment, Zuanji hurriedly tugged at Yushu's sleeve, her voice gentle like a maiden's. Why don't we choose a different horse? This pure black giant easily reaches nearly 3 meters tall. It looks quite frightening. Its hooves glimmer with shining locusts, the size of a human head. Kicking a person's head would be as easy as smashing a melon. The deeply cultivated Zuanji naturally feared for Yushu's safety. No matter, I smiled faintly. I walked towards the black stallion grazing on spirit grass, and leapt up, landing directly on its back. Elbu couldn't help praising, Your Highness has superb skill. He always felt that Yushu's movements were somehow similar to his own. As expected of my sovereign lord, even his martial skill is comparable to mine. Well, of course it's comparable. My abilities were directly copied from you, Elbu. Now let me try the ascending dragon technique. He could easily handle it. Zuanji covered his eyes, leaving just a thin slit as if not daring to watch. The nearby groom also stared wide-eyed, muttering, "Good heavens! How can you just go up without a word? If you want to kill me, just say so. Woo, if anything happens to you, I'll lose my hard-earned position as groom." At this time, the black stallion sensed it was being subjugated and began bucking wildly, swaying left and right, violently stamping its hooves and kicking up clouds of dust. Zhou and Ji and the groom's hearts leapt into their throats. "Be careful." But I remained utterly unmoving, calmly seated on the black stallion's back. My body swayed with its motions, rising and falling, as if dancing together with the horse. Yuzuanji and Ma Guaner's hearts leapt into their throats. Elbu kept shouting, "Your Highness is extraordinary." Behind him stood a powerful force, at a mere 18 years of age, not yet of adulthood. He already possessed nearly equal might. It was truly a terrifying prospect. I murmured in a low voice, circulating my inner energy. My legs clamped tightly around the obsidian steed. My whole body became as immovable as a mountain. Suddenly weighed down, the obsidian horse paused briefly, stopping its frenzied leaping. Gradually it settled down, able to sense the terrifying power of the one on its back. Out of fear for its life, time itself caused the obsidian horse to abandon its bucking and submit. The obsidian steed whinnied shrilly, turning its head to nuzzle my hand with its mane. Elbu laughed, "Your Highness is peerlessly valiant. Surely the greatest martial hero, equally gifted in leadership and warfare, an all-encompassing talent." Yuzuanji was dazed for a moment, then her eyes shone brightly. "My husband has succeeded. My husband is so impressive." Riding the obsidian steed, I slowly approached Elbu and Yuzuanji. Dismounting, I took the reins of the obsidian horse. "Now, let's leave this place." I pondered for a moment, then looked towards Elbu. "Could you please bring Kaitu's horse and tack? Have someone take care of them and have a saddle made." "Of course, no problem. Your Highness honors me with this request." Elbu eagerly agreed. "Your Highness treats me with such courtesy, even allowing the subject to accompany you and the lady on an outing. I am deeply grateful. From now on, I am your loyal hound." 2.5 hours later, I was strolling with Yuzuanji, admiring the lantern festival. "Husband, you're so amazing at guessing the lantern riddles. You got nearly all of them right." Yuzuanji's eyes shone with adoration. Of course, I smiled faintly. The lantern riddles here are all quite stale and obvious to me. I can discern the answers at a single glance. Lantern festival, I want a flower to give to my family as a gift. A flower symbolizes everlasting love and life. It's said the lantern festival commemorates. Yuzuanji gazed wistfully at a flower vendor. Longing shone in her eyes for talented scholars and beauties to gather. How romantic an occasion. With the addition of a flower, it would be perfect. I went and purchased a daffodil, presenting it to Yuzuanji. Yuzuanji took the daffodil, tears glistening in her eyes. System notification, the talented lady Yuzuanji's heart has been moved. Reputation gained, 100. System notification, the talented lady Yuzuanji is infatuated. Reputation gained, 200. Hearing this, I was dumbfounded. The whole afternoon, as we enjoyed our time together, Yuzuanji captivated me through her own means. I unexpectedly dreamed of gaining over 10,000 prestige points from her. Little did I expect that Yuzuanji would now be so enamored with me. How absurd. I watched as Yuzuanji embroidered flowers, not bearing to disturb her. A maidservant approached from the side, whispering, "My lady, you mustn't touch those flowers." "It's fine, I like them." Yuzuanji blinked her eyes, her face full of smiles. "What's wrong, Zuanji?" I frowned slightly. "You can't touch those flowers." "It's fine, let's go back." "The night is deep, my lord." The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. I felt that what the system said seemed to be true. It seemed Yu Zuanji, this talented lady, had indeed fallen for me. She had fallen in love with me. This was too absurd. It was just a matchmaking meeting this afternoon. But truthfully, I didn't know, in this era, a woman's lifelong commitment was basically controlled by her parents and clan. She had no right to choose for herself. Now that Yu Zuanji had met Suyu, she found me an acceptable person, not a worthless prince at all, but rather mysterious and accomplished. Naturally, she had mentally prepared to follow Suyu for life. Very well, let's go home. Zuanji, remember to go home after eating, all right? It's improper to stay overnight. What, my lord? Do you despise me? No, no. If people hear you stayed at my place overnight, even if we did nothing, how would they see it? What does it matter? Zuanji loves you. But Zuanji loves you. I was dumbfounded. It seemed I was so skilled at charming ladies, having nothing to do with myself. It was just the girl being too naive. I held Yu Zuanji's hand helplessly as we walked through the lantern-lit Great Zhou palace. We crossed one arched bridge after another, past one pavilion after another, along the Huichin River flowing through the capital of Great Zhou. Pleasure boats were adorned with lanterns. Talented scholars and beautiful ladies exchanged feelings during this lantern festival. Yu Zuanji and I said nothing. Yet the distance between our hearts grew closer. However, the next moment, I frowned slightly. I suddenly sensed an unusual aura as Yu Zuanji and I walked farther from the Imperial Palace. The auras of more and more martial artists surrounded us. There were assassins. Suddenly, a sharp sword pierced through the air from above a pavilion, whistling towards me, aimed straight at my heart from behind. Several black-robed figures leapt out from various corners, wielding vicious blades, rushing to assassinate me. While Yu Zuanji saw the blade behind me, seemingly gaining strength from who knows where, she sprang forward, shielding me from behind. The sharp sword came at us. If I were just an ordinary person, then this sharp sword would have taken Yu Zuanji's life. Zuanji, I was dumbstruck. I never expected that after only half a day of knowing Yu Zuanji, she would be willing to sacrifice her life for me, helping me block the sneak attack with a sword. This was using her life as a shield. Yu Zuanji is just a young girl who enjoys poetry and songs. She has no cultivation whatsoever. How could she have such courage? I was completely certain that Yu Zuanji was infatuated with me. She even truly saw me as her destined one. Those words of love for me were not just empty words. My expression turned cold. If I didn't have supreme cultivation right now, today I would have died on the street. And Yu Zuanji would have died from saving me. Her jade body filled with dense martial aura. I turned around abruptly and embraced Yu Zuanji, who was shielding me from behind. My surging inner energy was instantly released. I no longer concealed my cultivation at the terrestrial immortal realm, overwhelming everything. I stretched out my hand and directly grabbed that cold arrow. With a fierce tug, the assassin who shot the cold arrow immediately died on the spot. But there were still dozens of black-robed assassins, attacking from all sides. Holding Zuanji, our figures danced gracefully. My surging spiritual power swirled around us, like shimmering streams of light. A scholar and beauty, uniquely independent, like an immortal poem come to life. The assassins died one by one, snowflakes fluttering all around, reflecting Suyu and Yu Zuanji, dancing amidst the bloody rain. My lord, you're so awesome. Yu Zuanji cried out in admiration. I held Yu Zuanji tightly, my eyes gentle, yet filled with killing intent when looking at those assassins. Retreat quickly, the intel was wrong. Flee at once. This man has terrestrial immortal cultivation. The despicable Su family crown prince How does he have such formidable power? The black-robed assassins were aghast, terrified to the core. They fled in panicked chaos. I did not move, still embracing the somewhat shaken Yu Zuanji. The next moment, an earth-shattering roar echoed through the imperial capital. Who dares harm my lord? Lu Bu, like a demon god, rode the crimson dragon horse, red hair, clad in the black dragon armor, charging over from afar. The Feng Tianji halberd swept horizontally, like moonlight scattering sand. The black-robed assassins were instantly cut in half. Blood rained down from the sky. I covered Yu Zuanji's eyes, not wanting her to see such cruelty. Lu Bu killed all the assassins, dismounted his horse, and knelt before Suyu on one knee. His voice thundered like rolling thunder. I arrived too late to protect you, my lord. Please punish me for my failure, my lord. Lu Bu's heart was filled with regret, as Suyu's only martial guard now. He had failed to protect his lord. If not for Suyu's supreme cultivation, he may have fallen to the assassins' poisonous hands. There's no need to blame yourself, Lu Bu. I shook my head. Tomorrow, we march to battle. Take your rage and unleash it upon the Shan Wufeng sect. I hear and obey, my lord. Unspoken, his aura turned ferocious. Intoxicating wrath flooded his heart. This was the true demon god Lu Bu. The assassination attempt on Suyu's life had thoroughly enraged Lu Bu. The next moment, a gentle female voice was heard. My lord, Yu Zuanji suddenly called out. Her body abruptly went limp, collapsing into my embrace. I hurriedly caught Zuanji. Zuanji, what's wrong? My heart leapt into my throat. Could the poison from that cold arrow have seeped into Yu Zuanji's skin?